Hi everyone and welcome back. Now in today's video we are going to discuss about one of the very important topics, which is introduction to cloud computing. So nowadays in any organization that you work with, one of the major buzzwords that you will see is cloud. Every organization nowadays wants to migrate to cloud. Now, initially when cloud computing was relatively new, it was assumed that it would primarily impact the roles of system administrators or the DevOps people. However, as the time and the popularity of cloud computing grew, almost all of the roles in IT were impacted here. So not only system administrators, but even the storage administrators, the networking people, the program managers, the software developers, the auditors, everyone was impacted primarily because more and more organizations started to migrate to cloud. So everyone had to start learning the basics of cloud so that they can perform their role effectively. So a while back, I got a call from one of my colleagues who is a great software developer. So he was saying, Zeel, can you suggest me a good path for cloud certification? Primarily because in any organization that he goes for interview, all of them mandates having a decent cloud knowledge. Primarily because all of the applications that you will see that organizations are designing, they are designing with cloud in mind. And this is the reason why even the software developer needs to have decent amount of cloud knowledge here. And this is the reason why if you are planning to work in any role related to IT, not only this video but the entire course is going to be very useful. Now before we go ahead and understand what cloud and cloud computing is all about, it is necessary for us to take a step back to understand what was the challenge that organization used to face before cloud computing was introduced, and then we'll see on how cloud computing manages to solve that challenge in a much more easier way. Now for today's video, we'll take a very simple requirement related to storage of files. So the requirement states that Alice needs to store large number of important personal files in reliable storage. Now this is a requirement that I am sure that everyone has. Everyone has some kind of an important file that needs to be stored securely and reliably. So in order to achieve this requirement, what is the standard way that most of us used to follow here? The very common way is that all of the personal files would be stored in your computer or in your laptop. Now, although this is very common, but what happens if the storage disk in your computer or laptop gets corrupted? What happens if your computer gets impacted with viruses? All of the important files will go away. The second very common way is that users would generally buy external hard disk drives and stores the file there. Now this has some kind of advantage where even if your computer gets impacted, you still have a backup in your external hard disk drives. In fact, I also use this approach very often. So if you'll see, I have multiple such external drives that are available, which has a lot of important data that is stored. Now, one of the disadvantages here, let's say you buy a 500 gigabyte of external drive. Now, if this drive gets full, what you will do? You will have to go ahead and buy more number of external storage. Again, one area that you have to be careful here is that if there is a corruption in your hard disk drive, then all of your data gets lost. So again, this is a risk that is present with all of the 3 pointers here. One more step that many of us would generally perform is to regularly check the hard disk health status. This is a good indication sometimes if there are any issues with the hard disk drives so that your data can be protected before the disk is corrupted. For example, there are many tools available. I'll just give you a quick example. So this is Specie. So if you look into the storage, there are multiple number of smart attributes that are available. So the status for this drive is good. And you see there are multiple number of smart attributes related to read error rate, related to temperature, etc. So this also gives you good indication about your hard disk drive status. And in case in the future, let's say after 2-3 years, if there are any issues with the disk, you have to go to the service center to get it rectified. And here also it is not always a guarantee that they can solve the hardware issue. It can happen that your data gets lost. So this simple requirement related to storage of files, even at a personal level, used to create quite good number of challenges. Now, when you discuss about organization and enterprises where they have terabytes of important data which they cannot lose, the challenges increases further. Now, after cloud computing was introduced, we look into how easy now it is to securely and reliably store files here. So same requirement here where Alice wants to store large number of important files. So when you go with the cloud way, what you need to do, the first requirement is to choose a cloud provider that provides the appropriate storage services. There are a wide variety of cloud providers that also offer storage services. So this is the first step that you have to choose. And the second step is you have to store the files. That's about it. You don't really have to worry about anything. Every aspect is taken care by the cloud provider. Let's have a quick demo so that we understand how easy things are. So currently I'm logged into one of the cloud providers. In this case, it is AWS, and we are into one of the storage services that the cloud provider offers. So what is a storage service? Simple, it allows you to store files reliably and securely. So this is one of the storage services. So what happens here is all you'll have to do is you have to click on upload. You can upload a file or you can upload a folder. And then what you can do is you have to select one of the files. So currently I have multiple files available. Let's select one of the files here. And then you click on upload. And great, it is done. So if you go back here, you see the file is successfully uploaded in the cloud computing storage service. Now, when we discuss about the traditional older approach of buying a storage device and the new cloud-based approach, what are the benefits that this provided? First one was that the organization now need not worry about the storage space. For example, let's say that this external storage drive has a 1 terabyte of space. Now tomorrow, if an organization data grew and they now require 2 terabyte of storage space, so they have to procure the new external hard disk drives and so on. So all of this used to take a lot of time. So after the cloud migration, organization need not worry about the storage space. Cloud provider allows us to store virtually unlimited amount of data. So even if you have hundreds of terabytes of data or petabytes of data, it becomes much more easier for organization. All they'll have to do is they have to upload to the appropriate cloud provider storage service, and that's about it. Second major benefit that organization gained after migrating to cloud is that now they don't really have to worry about health of the hard disk and so on. Everything is managed by the cloud provider. The data that you upload in the cloud provider, for example, this specific file that we have uploaded, it is not only stored in a single storage device. It is stored in multiple storage devices across multiple different locations. So even if one location gets impacted, the file is still present in a storage device in a different isolated location itself, and this makes your life very simple. Great. Now based on this specific use case that we have taken, it will now become much more easier for us to understand the basics of cloud computing. So at a high level overview, cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So here, the on-demand delivery of IT resource is very important perspective here. So let us go ahead and understand this with an example. So let's say that you need to store 100 terabytes of files for 3 days. Now, if we go with the standard older approach, first what you would have to do, you would have to get 100 terabyte worth of external hard disk drives where the data can be stored. But the requirement here is that this amount of storage is required only for 3 days. So after 3 days, what will you do of that expensive hard disk drives that you brought? It will be of little use, and this will lead to a lot of cost expenditure for organization. So in a cloud way, what you will do, you will choose a cloud provider, and the only thing that you'll have to do is you will have to upload the files. You do not really need to worry about the storage. Storage will be made available to you on demand by the cloud provider. So this is what the on-demand delivery of IT resources refers to. In this example, the on-demand delivery is associated with storage. Now, when we discuss about a cloud computing provider, it is not necessary that they only give you storage related services. There are hundreds of services that cloud computing provider offers to the customers, and they can use based on their requirements. For example, if we take a use case of AWS cloud computing provider, if you look into the services that they are offering, these are all the categories, and in each categories there are multiple set of services that are available based on what individual and organization require. Now in today's video, we just took one simple requirement related to a storage service. But as we progress further, we'll look into various other services in detail that will give you a good understanding about the benefits and true revolution that cloud computing has provided. Now, before we conclude, it is also important for us to know the basics of cloud service providers. Now, at an overview, we have started to understand the benefits that cloud computing provides. But how can we gain those benefits? Which IT organization provides cloud computing related capabilities? So this is the next important area that we need to know. So at an overview, cloud service provider, you can also refer to them as a CSP, is a company that offers cloud computing services to users and organizations. Very simple to understand. Now in the industry, there are multiple cloud service providers that are available. For example, one of the very popular one is AWS. You also have Azure, you also have Google Cloud and various other providers that offers cloud computing services. Now, which cloud service provider that organization chooses will depends upon the exact requirements that they might have and also the costing perspective. But one thing that I can say is that one of the most popular cloud service provider that is available in the industry is AWS. Great. Now, before we conclude today's video, let's quickly revise the learnings that we have gained. The first one is that cloud allows us to quickly deploy IT resources whenever we need. Now, as we were discussing, IT resource does not always mean storage solution. There are a wide variety of IT resources like servers, networking stacks, etc. that can be included here. And the second important learning is that it makes life easier as there is no initial capital expense of hardware and management. For example, as we were discussing, that organization wants to store 100 terabytes of data for just 3 days. So in a cloud way, there is no initial capital expense of first buying the storage device and so on. All you'll have to do, you upload your data in cloud provider and that's about it. After 3 days, you don't need the data, you delete it. That's about it. And that is the benefit that cloud computing provider provides. Great. So that's a very high level overview about the challenges that cloud computing tries to solve. Now, as we progress further in the course, we will go in great detail related to cloud computing and also the services that the cloud computing provider offers to organizations. So with this, we'll conclude today's video.